Do you find since you've instituted that restaurant that you're seeing greater patient adherence to that menu, that dietary, that prescription that you're giving?
That's exactly right. So what we found is that, and we published this, we had a group of individuals with high blood pressure and hyperlipidemia, and we put them on the 28-day meal plan. We provided all the food for them, and we saw an 87% compliance of that.
Wow.
Now, that 87% compliance is in the background of a very strict compliance criteria. So in other words, you have one bite, one drop, one crumb of anything off the diet, that's a non-compliant day.
Hardcore.
So that's a very stringent compliance criteria, and despite that, there was an 87% compliance on that regimen.
Let me ask you, why is it that you're so strict with that diet? And I'll tell you why I asked that question after I get your answer.
Yeah, and so I like we get that question and the word strict, and I like to turn that to the word precise. So for instance, I said it's not a bite, not a drop. You have to be 100% compliant, not 99.99. So when the patients ask me the question similar to what you asked, I'll say, well, if I'm going to implant your defibrillator or pacemaker, do you want my gloves 90% sterile or 100%? So when they see it in that context, then we know the importance of being very compliant with the diet. That's number one. Number two is that we have to understand certain foods that we consume that are harmful to us are foods that we're in fact addicted to.
Right.
So whether it's baked chicken or baked fish or whatever the case may be. So if you consume these foods in moderation, you will always consume them in increased amounts over time because you're addicted to it. So you never tell an alcoholic to consume alcohol in moderation. You said not a bite, not a drop, not a crumb, or in that case, not a drop. But the point is that you have to be very precise in your nutritional regimen because you're dealing with biochemical effects of food and you're dealing with the addictive nature of foods.
I am so happy to hear you say that because I used to be 420 pounds.
Wow.
I understand.
I never would have.
I understand food addiction,
yes.
and it is very serious. I
yes.
look at food the exact same way you were talking about. It's,
yes.
It's no different than any other drug. I talk
That's
about
right.
that a lot on this show. It's,
That's right.
It's the same as cocaine. It's the same as nicotine. It's
That's
the
right.
same as alcohol. Any vice. It's exactly the same.
Yep. It's the same biochemically, but socially it's worse because those addictions are supported by society.
Right.
So nobody supports a crack cocaine addiction. Nobody supports an alcoholic addiction. But our society supports baked chicken addiction or bacon addiction. And so those are the most harmful addictions because there's social support for those addictions, and that's the problem.
Right. And what the hardest part, though, is getting people to understand, even if they are morbidly obese, super morbidly obese, that food is an addiction.
That's
we
right.
just don't view it in that same light.
That's exactly right. And even the thin people are addicted to these foods who have high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and high cholesterol.
Right.
And so regardless of their body habits, the bad food consumption is a problem.